Hello, beautiful people. Happy Saturday and greetings from Mexico. As you can see, I'm a sweaty mess, so the temperature has rapidly changed for me. Obviously, don't want to rub it in or anything, but yeah, it takes some adjustment, and I just had to turn off the AC to make this video so it's not noisy in the background. But anyway, here we are, and this is my practical application of astrology personal share video. So if you're waiting for the astrological forecast for next week, stay tuned. I will probably make an release that one tomorrow. So this is my practical application of astrology video. So yeah, so this has been quite crazy week. As I mentioned in my previous video, this last eclipse in Taurus actually conjunct my sun that is in opposition with Pluto natally and squared my angle, squared my ascendant and descendant. So I definitely felt it a lot, as I'm sure many of you have. I know that this eclipse definitely kicked a punch. And of course, both of them, because they were both squared by Pluto. And yeah, it's definitely the last few days in Slovakia were probably the most intense. And I just was experiencing a lot of challenges and having to really consider what am I going to do going forward with regards to this kind of situations, aka staying with my parents for a prolonged period of time, and whether as much as I learned a lot of lessons from that, and there was a lot of teaching, and I'm very grateful for all the opportunities for that, there was definitely a recognition of what matters to me, my needs, my values, and also this continuous overstepping of my boundaries, which is something that is I guess normal for my family, even though it is not normal, but it's normal pattern that keeps happening. So anyway, so technically what I want to say, based especially on the aspects that we had this week, of course, we had the Venus trine to Uranus on Tuesday, which definitely, like obviously Venus being in Virgo, is telling us that there is a lot of learning and adjusting that is taking place at the moment for everyone, because Venus is in that grand Earth trine that already Mars was, Mercury was, Sun was, and now Venus is doing all these aspects, making all these aspects that all these other planets were before. And it's no coincidence that Venus is trining Uranus right after the two eclipses, both ruled by Venus, which of course the first one was telling us about this new pattern that is being seeded individually and collectively regarding our relationships, the way we relate, the way we relate to one another, but also the way we are related to by another. And then, of course, the eclipse in Taurus, which, as we remember, the nodes were in the Taurus Scorpio axis all the way until July this year, and this eclipse definitely like put a nail in a coffin of all that experience regarding what matters to you, because with the North Node in Taurus we had the 2 years, the 2022 until the mid 2023, but actually the whole thing started with the first eclipse in Taurus, which was in November 2021, and this was a period of time when we really had an opportunity to understand what really matters to us. And as I mentioned, during these 2 months, I mean, seriously, like it's so crazy because I have just returned back to PV, and Saturn is stationed in direct today, and there is none of this is lost on me, how all the astrology is literally like crazy reflecting my life. And yeah, during all this Saturn retrograde, which actually started in June, on June 17th, on a new moon in Gemini, and of course we're going to be having full moon in Gemini at the end of this month, which is giving us choices and options, because Gemini is also about always about multiplicity, multidimensionality, about the opportunity to choose. Also in tarot, the Lover's card is ruled by Gemini, and that's the card that is telling us about the choices we can make. So going back to this Venus trine to Uranus, which had become active, which obviously was active during the eclipse, but became exact on the 31st, on the Halloween day, no other. I was really struggling at the beginning of the week. There was a lot to take care of, obviously packing. Also, the circumstances of my co-living with my family were less than ideal because of other people being around all the time, and all of them having expectations and stuff like that. So technically it was very stressful beginning of the week. I felt a lot of pressure, and I definitely was recognizing that I'm running on empty, and I could really observe myself how I was responding or reacting, more to be exact, in a very different way to what I had been able to, how I was able to respond or react towards the beginning, like at the beginning of my stay, like 2 months ago when I first came from Bulgaria, and my cup was full. I was so happy and so full of like, oh, I had all this time to myself, and I was in my witch cave in Bulgaria, and it was amazing, surrounded by mountains and beautiful weather and all that, and everything's got its place. Everything has an opportunity to teach us something. And like I said, with this Venus-Uranus trine, which is part of the grand Earth trine between Venus, Uranus, and Pluto, that was active during the eclipse, and Venus being in opposition with Neptune during the eclipse, which created the kite, and actually the exact opposition happened last night. There is no coincidence to any of this, because after this last eclipse in Taurus, it was really, really drove home to what really matters. So that's why this week I'm sure many people experience being acutely aware of where their boundaries lie, what really is important to them, what are their needs and values, and where are they not being met, very likely. And then of course, as the week was going, like on the 3rd, actually the day I arrived, we had the Sun opposition to Jupiter. So thank you, Jupiter, for all the blessings for bringing me here, because of course Jupiter is actually conjuncting my Sun, because my Sun is in Taurus on 5 degrees, and now Jupiter going backwards, it's coming nearer again. Yeah, Sun is actually both of them. Sun now is coming to my south node soon. So all this is definitely bringing a lot of past around for me to look at from this newfound perspective of this Taurus illumination, this full moon illumination of the past 2-year cycle, which really, really taught me a lot about myself and my needs and values, and how important it is for me to meet my needs myself, because if I externalize them, and of course the external environment is not responsible for meeting my needs, which I was very aware of being around my family, and this is what I mean. Nobody is responsible for other people to feel good about themselves or to give themselves what they need. So once we know what matters to us and what is important to us, it's actually our responsibility to find the way to meet the needs. Whether, we can obviously have other people to help and assist us. And, this is how we create these new conscious relationships where we are actually aware of ourselves and we know what we bring into the table, and then the person know what they're dealing with, and maybe that person has that to give which you need, and vice versa. So like I mentioned, in my home environment with my family, the needs are very different. Like the number one priority in my family's life is family, and it's all these codependent enmeshment dynamics where people are just in each other's lives and they know everything about everyone, and they feel the entitlement to meddle with other people's lives and all that, which is fine, because this is what some people need. This is what is okay for them, but it's not for me. This is like completely in conflict with what is important to me, because my number one need is freedom, and I need a lot of time to myself, which of course through the lens of my family eye is observed as selfish, that I'm extremely selfish and self-centered because I just want to take care of myself. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what label you put on that, because if I don't meet my need, if I don't have that time to myself, if I cannot take care of my needs, like start my day with yoga and do my routine and do these things that matters to me, that are important to me, I deplete myself. And then it gets to the point like what I had just experienced at this week, at the beginning of the week, where I have zero zero thing to give. Like my cup is so empty that I'm very short of temper, very reactive, and I have nothing to give, and this is how I, like, personally, in my personal experience, had the opportunity to understand this trine between Venus and Uranus, how Venus is telling us that, well, all these learning that we are going through right now needs to be put into practical application to actually help us to get our needs met. Of course, Venus is the ruler of Uranus, and Uranus going through Taurus is actually helping us to individuate our needs, like what actually is uniquely important to you. It doesn't matter what other people think or say or what is important to them. Of course, like we are finding a way to co-live and co-create and be able to actually accept people as they are, but that doesn't mean that you have to be around these people. And in this case, this is the situation. Like, I can have all the love and compassion for my family, and I can even be very grateful and understand what has gone there, and really have a lot of gratitude for the opportunity to have these lessons through these people that I assigned on a soul level to teach me these lessons, and I'm very grateful for it. But really, towards the end of the stay, I had to really have a deep think, and also traveling for 2 days, I had the opportunity to think very deeply about this, that okay, now that I understand all these things, now that I learned this lesson, like how much self-abuse do I need to expose myself. And this is practically what I feel that we're going on collectively. Also, of course, with the Sun Jupiter opposition, Jupiter is also ruled by Venus, and Jupiter is still retrograde, as we know, helping us to reevaluate all these stories that we tell ourselves. And and Sun going through Scorpio is really shining the light on the deepest shadow of who you are. And this is what I mean, like, it doesn't matter that what you need might be considered as whatever, fill the blank. You are being selfish, you are being self-centered, you're not taking care of someone else and stuff. And like, of course, if there are other people involved, for example, you are a parent and you have a child, then everything has to be taken into consideration, because there is a level of responsibility and all that. But all in all, if people are not getting their needs met, then eventually they will crumble, or they will have this moment of like, I need to break free no matter what, because in essence we need what we need, and we need what we need because this is the learning that you came here to experience, whatever that is for you. So that's why so many people walk away. They walk away from marriages, they walk away from families, because if their need has not been met for such a prolonged period of time, then there comes to the point where this Uranus will just break you out of it. And I mean, in a very mild way, because of course I was consenting to that and I made a decision. This is what happened for me this week. Like, I observed myself how obviously comfortable and convenient it was to have my basic needs met. Like, obviously staying with my parents, I didn't have to pay rent, and like, my parents were taking care of all my basic needs, like food and shelter, and I had shower, and like all these things that you need for everyday life, right? But my most important need, which is the need for my freedom and a need for my authenticity, and to be able to have time to myself, because this is so important to me, to just be able to have time to myself without having to explain myself or justify myself, or because the way my time to myself was considered as effective was when I was with my client or making my work, or like my social media content and stuff, because that's obviously when I need to be on my own, right? But that is not what I meant. I mean, time to myself, literally, even if I'm just like sitting and doing nothing, just staring at the wall. But I for me, this is so important. I really need these times to myself. So having this week of this, like Sun Jupiter opposition, Venus trine to Uranus, and like literally, this is not a joke, seriously. Like yesterday, just like obviously as I arrived in PV, we had the Sun Jupiter opposition, but then later on yesterday night, we had the Venus opposition to Neptune, and Neptune is all about healing. Neptune is the ruler of Saturn. As I speak today, Saturn is turning direct after it's 5 months of retrograde. It started in June, right? So July, August, September, October, November. Yes, 5 months of retrograde. I had to quickly count because I'm still jet lagged and my brain is not fully functional. So Saturn is stationed in direct today. And again, what did we learn in the past 5 months that is no longer serving us, that is not longer supporting us? Because Saturn represents the structure. In a sense, it represents a level of safety and security because it's in opposition with Cancer. Cancer is your home, but your home is your body. Like, are you feeling safe within yourself? And now Saturn is stationed in direct. And as we know, Saturn is and has been in Pisces since March and is stationed in direct on like 0 degrees, right? It's like 0 degrees and 31 minutes, and that comes to number 4, which is a Saturnian number. Is the numerologically is a Saturnian quality, which is again about security, stability. So Saturn is stationed in direct right after Venus made an opposition to Neptune. So Venus, the Venus that made a trine to Uranus, and Venus is of course going to also make a trine to Pluto on Monday. So that is the other leg of the triangle, the grand Earth trine that was active during the Taurus lunar eclipse. The Venus was ruler of, actually both eclipses, the Libra one as well. And this trine, like now becoming active first by Uranus, the trine to Uranus, and now there is the opposition to Neptune and the upcoming trine to Pluto becoming exact. And in the middle of that, Saturn is stationed in direct. I mean, seriously. And like I said, and also, let's not forget, today also we have Mercury in opposition with Uranus. So Venus made an opposition to Neptune. Venus is saying about, okay, all this needs to be adjusted because we cannot go any further than that. We need to gather tools. There is a process of healing. Of course, Neptune in a Pisces is it's got a potential for a very spiritual quality, which is again this: what do we need to let go of in order for this cycle to end, to create a space for something new to begin? And we can see this individually and collectively, that there are all these things coming to the surface at the moment that are no longer supporting us going anywhere, like going forward, because this is really the time of the great purge on planet Earth, because this time for us to be able to sweep things under the carpet and ignore the outdated patterns, the time is over. It's coming to its end. And now with Neptune and Saturn being in Pisces and Saturn stationed in direct today, Saturn going retrograde for 5 months from the day of the new moon in Gemini, again, like what choices are we making? How are we thinking about these situations? Like, what are we learning from them? And of course, Mercury is the ruler of Venus at the moment, because Mercury is ruling Virgo. And Mercury today, as I mentioned, right after Saturn stationed direct, actually a few hours after, Mercury is opposing Uranus, and Uranus is also still retrograde. Uranus will be the last planet stationed in direct at the end of January 2024. So Uranus is going to help us to understand more things regarding of our individuation process, and in opposition with Mercury, Mercury is going through Scorpio. So Mercury is like very deep contemplation, very deep investigation, and it's really intense, all these things being in a Scorpio season. And now in November, like after all these, like the Day of the Dead, I know it's called something different, but I can't think of it now, like All Souls, I think, right? I don't want to call it like triggering names so people get upset, but that day, like where we are celebrating the people that passed. And the veils are so thin. Of course, we had the Halloween, the veils are very thin during the Halloween day, and all these, like literally the reality as we've been experiencing it, it's completely shifting. I mean, I don't know how obviously other people are perceiving their reality, because we all have our own realities. We all live in this parallel realities, but actually everybody has their own. Like that's why like there is not just one timeline, there is not just one reality. Everybody has their own reality that they are perceiving, and then obviously if we are a vibrational match to one another, we can connect, right? So anyway, all that said, all this is kind of becoming a little bit very undefined, very nebulous. So because the veil is so thin, and pretty much everything that's going on the other side of the veil and everything that's going on here, it's all connected. As above, so below, as within, so without. Like this week, and also having the opportunity to travel and literally just be en route for 2 days because I had free flights. And I mean, you can't make this up, guys. I was in 4 countries in one day. Like 4 countries in one day. I think that's my record. Because obviously I was setting off from my parents' place in Slovakia, taking my first flight from Austria, from Vienna, via London. So I had my 4 hours in England. And then from there to Canada, where I had overnight layover, and then from there to Mexico. So I was in one day, I was in 4 countries. It was intense. So anyway, having this opportunity for traveling, and literally, obviously, as you know, when you travel, especially long distance flights, there's not much you can do. Like you literally just have to surrender to the moment that, okay, I'm not going anywhere. I cannot do anything. I'm going to be up in there for many, many hours. And that's it. You can just chill because there is nothing else you can do. I know that now people can pay for Wi-Fi and work even on the plane. I'm like, no, that's where I draw on the line. When I'm flying, when I'm traveling, I'm not working. I'm just, I'm just getting adjusted to new environment. So anyway, all that said, this gave me a lot of opportunity to do nothing, to just rest and think. And actually on the other side of it, even I was jet lagged so much yesterday when I arrived, and I went to bed fairly early for me and got finally 8 hours of sleep. I had the opportunity to truly reevaluate like these past 2 months or even 6 months, because actually when I left, and it's so crazy because even thinking about what everything took place and what everything happened in these past 6 months since I left Puerto Vallarta. Actually, I left in May, so June, July, August, September, October, November. Yeah, 6 months. 6 months ago, I left in May, and it's just literally like how much everything changed. Like I really feel like I'm not even the same person anymore. But this is normal for me because I don't know. I think it's because all my planets are retrograde. But yeah, anyway, so what I was trying to say is this week, because of the Halloween and because of the All Souls Day and obviously Scorpio season, Sun traveling through the sign of Scorpio, Mercury traveling through the sign of Scorpio, Mars is still in a sign of Scorpio. He's going to have a conjunction with Sun soon. And all this is happening in opposition to Jupiter and now coming towards Uranus. Mercury is having opposition to Uranus today, right? I think that's what I mentioned. Yeah, Mercury exact opposition to Uranus today. It's giving us this opportunity to actually travel in between timeline, to really understand that, oh, well, this was me, but it's not longer who you are. And who are you becoming? Who do you want to become? Because as I mentioned, with Mercury, it's all about choice. So Mercury going through Scorpio, it's making us to face all these inner aspects of yourself. Of course, with Mars being there, because Mars is how Pluto acts consciously. To me, still Mars is like pointing the arrow, to the territory that we need to be exploring. And in this case, it's Scorpio. And Mars in Scorpio is very intense. I mean, it's in its rulership, so it's very powerful, traditional rulership, but still, it can get really like crazy invested into something and go deep into that. And Venus now activating this exact trine to Uranus, and last night, the opposition to Neptune is helping us to see what lost meaning, what is no longer working for us, what actually gives us an opportunity for spiritual upgrade, really, because all these experiences that I had and we all having and we having as a collective in our personal life, but also collectively, is giving us the opportunity for spiritual upgrade. So nothing is ever wasted in the universe. There is no such a thing that, oh, I'm having this experience as an accident or it's random. It's happening at random. There is no such a thing. Everything's got a purpose and everything's got a meaning. And with everything else that's going on at the moment, and as we know, North Node being in a sign of Aries and Mars is the ruler in the sign of Scorpio, ruled by Pluto, Pluto now direct in Capricorn, that is just about to have a trine, exact trine with Venus, the ruler of the South Node, being the resolution node to Pluto square in the node. It's like you can just see how literally you can just bounce from one planet to another and see how everything is connected. And what is all this about? Well, it's about this spiritual evolution. It's about going further, going the next level. Pluto is going to move into Aquarius. It's like, where are we going as individual beings and as a human collective? Where are we going? We are in Aquarian age. We go into the next level. We are going to this something that we haven't experienced before. We're going to be on. I mean, of course, like there is nothing new under the sun, and there's what those like Atlantis and Lemuria and everything that's happening already happened. But but now it's happening in a different way, because there is no such a thing as like you see, like even astrologically, nothing would ever be in the same place exactly the same as it is now with planets. And obviously Pluto has only been known since 1930. So even previously, if things were happening astrologically, people at that time weren't conscious of Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, for example. So again, microcosm this week, especially the beginning of it, was crazy, like for me. I mean, I know there are things going on in the world. I have been completely disconnected this week. I have no clue what's been going on in the world, because I had too much going on in my own little microcosm with all the packing, preparation, obviously trying to dodge the bullet in my own house. Like, I know this is not even funny, so I do excuse the pun, but there's been a lot of situations which were being obviously nothing in comparison with what's going on in the world, but that's been very, very challenging. And and then at the end, when I finally left, again, going back to what I was saying before, it would have been so easy to just stay because all my basic needs are being met. But I felt I was dying inside. And this is literally why I had to leave Slovakia in the first place when I was 19 years old, because I would not be here if I stayed. This is literally the whole point of this whole video, to try to explain to people and to try to help them understand, because I am literally a walking example. I have just gone through what I'm talking about in these past 2 months, and especially these past 2 weeks since I came back from England, because things just became more intense, because I kind of became adjusted to my situation the first month, and then I went to England, situation changed again, and it was wonderful. And then when I came back to Slovakia after my three weeks in England, things were much more intense. They were just much more, it was harder to just to keep suppressing these things that really matter and that I really need and that are important for me, even though my environment doesn't consider them as such. But that's what I mean, like us as individuals and as a unique expression of the source, like you with your unique needs and perception of reality, your story, and whatever makes you who you are, which is all this Aquarius, it is individuation process, is exactly what you need to be, because you came here needing what you need, and your needs and values are actually supporting you in finding yourself, finding that connection with your true essence, that then will help you to find what is your purpose and what you came here to do. And of course, like the main thing you came here to do is to become yourself. So again, the environment doesn't have to understand or see you for who you want to be, but it's our responsibility to self-validate. So it doesn't matter what somebody else is trying to project onto you that you should want or need, or who should you be, or what you should believe, or what you should think. At the end of the day, we came here to find out, who are you? Who are you? And then it's our responsibility to actually become that. It's nobody else's responsibility. So like I said in my personal story here, I had the opportunity to actually make that. Well, I had to make a choice. Yes, I could have stayed and I could have had all my needs met, just carry on, save money, be fed, clothed, and warm and stuff. And I know there are so many people who don't have that. And I'm really grateful that I did. But this is not, and I know that again, this could be triggering for people. And they might say, well, you don't know what you're talking about because it's different to have it and not care than not have it and understand what is it like to have lost it. But I just know that for me, if I'm not able to have my most important needs met, it doesn't matter how much food and water and shelter and stuff there is, I will perish. And this is where we really have to make a choice, where we have to understand ourselves to the level that we actually have to go after what really is important to you personally, even though the society might sell something different. So this is why I had to leave. And again, I can see the difference, like, of my life 6 months ago when I left and my life now. And this is, of course, my Pluto line. So I'm sure there will be a lot of interesting experiences, as they always are, to help me face whatever it is that I need to face to be able to, again, grow and evolve and get to the next level, or whatever it is, however you would describe it. But I needed to do this. And now looking back, I can actually have a, like, love and compassion for others, but also love and compassion for the aspect of myself who actually was struggling under these circumstances, because that what makes me who I am, and what really matters to me was not really being nurtured, because the environment was not supporting that. And this is what I mean. Going forward, I have to decide for myself how much do I want to go put myself through these situations again in order to learn something, which is the same thing. What really matters to you, who you are. And again, with these transits that's been happening this week, and today Saturn station in direct and Saturn is in Pisces, it's giving us really the chance to redefine things and let go of these aspects of you that, yes, were part of your structure and your reality and your sense of safety and security, but are they still supporting you? Is that still what you need? Because I don't know exactly where I'm heading with my life. I don't have it all figured out. I don't have a step-by-step process necessarily, but I know what is really, really important to me, to the point where I'm willing to leave all the comfort zone behind in order to go and find it. And I feel that now, with this North Node being in Aries, a lot of people are on this path of self-discovery, where they just will have to do it alone, because Aries is also about leadership qualities. It's about, okay, if there is no one else, I have to be the one, right? And this is literally the role I play in my family. If there is no one else to mirror this to me, then I have to be the one. I have to do it for my nephews and nieces, for the next generations who are very different. These Capricorn kids, they're very, very different. And in many cases, they are misunderstood. Like, I'm not saying obviously everyone, and it depends what family they were born into. But my nephews and nieces, of course, like, they don't care because they're 3-year-olds. So they have a lot of attitude, 3, 2, 1, literally. But they need someone like me in that family to be the one to break the road, to make the path for them, because these kids, the time comes in our life where, of course, it's if there is no one mirroring, as a child, obviously the child having the need for survival and the need for attachment, to connect, because that's how they're going to survive. They're going to suppress their individuation. They're going to suppress who they really are if that is not being acceptable, because they need to survive. So I feel that I have to do this. I am doing this for myself, but I'm doing it for them too. Being this pioneer, because like, if it's happened once, if it's done once, then it can happen again. It's like just easily to break the trait if there was that one person that made the difference. It's just like the 100 monkeys effect, right? If that one person was able to do it, then everybody else will be able to follow, because it's been broken, that restriction was broken. So anyway, to sum this up, because I feel I'm just going in circles, and technically this message is very very easy, which is more of like, what did we learn? What did we learn in the past 2 years that now became illuminated, and all these aspects, everything that's taking place really is just bringing that to your consciousness, to your conscious mind, because as we can see, it's all these aspects between personal planets and the outer planets, right? We had the Venus trine to Uranus. Venus is a personal planet. Uranus is a subconscious planet. So Venus trine in Uranus, there was an exchange, right? Then we had the Sun in opposition with Jupiter. I mean, Sun is the luminary. Jupiter is like is the outer planet. It's the interpersonal planet. It's not quite personal, but it's still more personal than the Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. I forgot what it was called right now because my brain is not working properly. But anyway, in this opposition, we had the opportunity again. There is so many oppositions, and then subsequently the Venus, Neptune. Again, Venus personal planet, Neptune is the outer planet. So we have the opportunity to bring these things from the unconscious realm into conscious realm. So we actually have the understanding, the point of illumination as what is opposition. And then today, after Saturn station direct, which already took place, we have in the Mercury in opposition with Uranus, and again it's a personal planet in opposition with a non-personal planet. And then tomorrow Ceres in opposition with Uranus. So there are a lot of supporting aspects, even though I know that in traditional astrology, opposition might not necessarily be seen as something positive. But again, that's why I moved away from traditional astrology, because I don't see astrology as something polarizing. Because yes, of course, you can interpret it in whatever way you want. But at the end of the day, everything is happening for a reason. So the fact that we call something positive or negative is just our label, like how we labeled it. Again, I'm not saying that the situation isn't positive or negative, but it's our perception. And this is something which I many times try to help people understand, my clients, that like try to find at least something positive in that situation. Again, of course, we need to feel what we feel. So whatever emotions are being brought to the surface, there is a reason for them, because emotions are messengers, emotion like energy in motion, right? But if we focus on that learning in that situation, whatever it was. So for example, like, yes, these 2 months around my family, I could play a complete victim, like, oh, I'm so misunderstood, nobody understands me, la la la. And yeah, to some level there is an aspect of me that feels that way, like, why can't they just get me, right? But then the other aspect of me understand that, well, this is exactly the role they need to play in order for me to experience the polarity, the contrast, right? So I'm like, why would I be judged? Well, even though I know that it's sometimes hard not to judge people, but then, like, I'm judging myself, obviously. But why would I be doing that when I know that this is actually the assignment I gave them, and they just playing their role perfectly? So it's actually all happening exactly as it has to. So again, like, looking back at the situation of past 2 months, 2 years, whatever it is for you that you are now coming into kind of understanding of something, what is the positive? What is the learning of the situation? So then we don't have to repeat the same story, the same situation again, because in many cases we get so attached to our suffering and to that story, right? To that story that we don't even want to let it go. Like, people just keep repeating the same stories in order to, I don't know, like, get some whatever they're looking for. But again, like, if we learn what is actually important to us individually, and if we learn how to meet our needs, then we won't need to project them on all over other people, but there will be a conscious exchange, because everything is transactional, rather than like many people still have this feeling of guilt and shame if they do something for themselves. And there is this conditioning, especially of the Pisces age, religious conditioning, that we have to put ourselves last, that we need to put other people's first, and if we don't, then we are not a good person. And then it's this fear of rejection, and again the guilt and shame that, oh, I'm gonna be the bad guy or whatever. And yeah, and I don't even care, like, at this stage in my life, like, I don't care to be the bad guy in my family. like, oh yeah, look at her, whatever. I really don't care, so for me it's all good. And again, I am grateful for all the learning, but I have to sit with myself and my own inner child and my own inner critic and my own inner parent and all of that, and we have to have a discussion and decide, okay, is it necessary for you to put yourself through this situation again, like next year or whatever? So when we understand ourselves and then we understand other people and like why they are the way they are, and also with astrology definitely helped me to understand my parents, like why they need what they need and stuff like that, but my needs are different, and it doesn't make them wrong, it doesn't make me wrong. And again, like you decide what is acceptable for you. So, I said I will wrap it up, and I'm still talking, obviously, here. So, yeah, so now I arrived after 2 days of travel, and I am very happy to be here. Of course, new environment will represent new lessons and new learning, and, all these new things that will be connected to that. But yeah, all in all, at least I have the opportunity to experience something different to the environment, which I was experiencing in the past 2 months, and there was a lot of positive to it. Like I got to spend a lot of time with my nephews, which I love dearly. But again, I understand how much time and effort and energy raising little children requires, and that's not the path I signed up for, which, again, there is nothing right or wrong with that. But it's not the path I chose for myself, exactly because of what it actually requires. And me knowing myself and my limitations and my needs and values, it's not really compatible. It's not very compatible. So again, and I even saying that I have to obviously observe me saying the story, because it's again a story. But here I am, with Saturn station in direct. So let's see what's Saturn going again forward on the same territory he already passed through in Pisces, and Saturn is going to be retouching all of that. Yeah, how are we going to potentially do things a little bit differently now that we had the opportunity to have this experience of Saturn retrograde, first one in the sign of Pisces. And of course, at the moment, we are having the, well, yesterday, the Venus opposition to Neptune, the ruler of Saturn. And at the moment, we are having the Mercury opposition to Uranus. And Uranus is ruled by Venus. So what are we breaking free from? What are we leaving behind? Because it's no longer going to take us any further on our path, wherever we're heading. So yeah, guys, I'm gonna close it at this. Obviously, I will dive deeper into astrology tomorrow, hopefully when my brain is working a bit better. But yeah, I just wanted to touch the ground, share some experiences. It's been interesting, big, very very mixed energy. And yeah, now on the other side of Atlantic, it's definitely much quieter, despite the fact that there is obviously noises going around, because this is Mexico. I mean, at the end of the day, there is always something going on here. But still, I just feel much more at peace, and it's kind of like getting used to taking control over my life again, taking the reins back, like, okay, actually now I can schedule my day and I can decide what I want to do and when and stuff. So yeah, it's interesting dynamics that's going on. Okay, so I hope that you had a nice week post lunar eclipse in Taurus energies and the integration of whatever was brought to the surface, which is obviously still ongoing process. And yeah, there are a lot of things happening. Next week is super busy. Actually, the new moon in Scorpio is not happening until Monday. So I'll probably leave the interpretation of that for the next weekend, but I'll decide tomorrow. So if you're waiting for the astrological forecast for next week, then stay tuned, and it will be probably coming out tomorrow. So I wish you all a beautiful weekend, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye for now.